Hey everyone, this is just a quick reaction video on the African Five-A-Side podcast, brought to you by africasacountry.com. Usually on Mondays, we release an African football report where, it's a 45-minute episode treating a specific subject or theme. That video is ready, it's prepared, but we're going to release it tomorrow simply because today I think everybody's eyes on the continent were completely transfixed on the CAF Champions League draw and the CAF Confederation Cup draw as well. That took place today in Cairo, and as you can see on the screen here, if you're watching on YouTube, it was an interesting draw. Let's start with the CAF Champions League. It's the more premier competition, and I think it's the one that most people are interested in. In Group A, we have TP Mazembe, Young Africans, El Hilal, MC of Algiers. Group B, Mamelodi Sundowns, Raja Casablanca, AS FAR Rabat, AS Maniama Union. Group C, we have El Ahli, CR Belouizdad, Orlando Pirates, and Stade d'Abidjan. And Group D is Esperance de Tunis, Pyramids FC, Sagrada Esperanza, and Joliba de Bamako. Now, let's go group by group and just give some very brief thoughts. I think this is a useful exercise just to know what my initial preconceived notions were of each of these teams. And I usually like to watch these back at the end of the group stages just to see where we were right and where we were wrong. So for Group A, for me, this is the most equal group out of any competition, whether it's the Champions League or the Confederation Cup. These are four teams, in my opinion, that are perfectly evenly matched. Let's start with Tipe Mazembe, as they were in pot one. Tipe Mazembe, for those that don't know, they lost a lot of players. They lost at least almost, six, seven, eight players. Um, Many of them, by the way, most of them to North African clubs. Players like Kevin Mondeko, who was their captain at the time, Glory Lukanza, Joel Beya, Philippe Kinzumbi, and one important specification is that they were also, I think they've been banned from buying players last transfer window as well. And so what they've done is they've just kept stability with the coach, Lamine Ndiaye, the Senegalese coach who's very well respected around the continent and who has had a lot of success with the club in the past in the Club World Cup and in this competition in the Champions League. And at the same time, they always had a young squad anyway. So I think they're going to rely on a lot of their younger players to step up. Players like Cheick Fofana, players like Oscar Cabuit, and to continue to show what they showed last season. And last season, if you recall, the Champions League rewarded teams that defended well. And Mazembe, despite conceding a lot of goal scoring opportunities, they didn't concede a lot of goals. So I think what they're going to have to do this season, keep relying on those young players and make sure they don't concede a lot of goals. Also in this group, we have Young Africans of Tanzania. And, if ever a Tanzanian club, I mean, we need one to get past the quarterfinals, right? It's been years now that we keep hyping up Tanzanian football and we love what they're doing, but we need a club in the semifinals of the Champions League. I think this could be this year. Miguel Gamondi, he's had a full year of preparation now. They had a great run at it, go at it last time, and they just came up just short to Mamelodi Sundowns, right? But they come back with, a lot of the same players, a lot of the same squad. They are the dominant team in Tanzania at the moment. Players like Paco Mzuzwa, in my opinion, was the funnest player to watch in the Champions League last season. Just a maverick, so technically sound, so powerful, such a fun dribbler, especially to watch. And he scored a lot of important goals as well. But you have those experienced heads, those Khalid Auchos in midfield, who can cover ground, put their foot on the ball, make sure it's perfectly passed, tell a player to come over here and mark this space or mark this player and so on and so forth. I like these players. They brought in players like Prince Dube. They have some youth like Clement Mziza, who my friend Salim tells me is called the Tanzanian Drogba, if I remember. And even underrated players like Kennedy Musanda. These not world beaters by any sorts of the imagination, but when counted on, they usually produce. So I really like this young Africans team. I think they can get through. But you also have El Hilal of Sudan. Remember, El Hilal and Al Merrikh are currently playing in the Mauritanian League. We spoke about this in a few episodes ago. What I like about El Hilal is they have Florent Ibenge at the helm. And Florent Ibenge, I respect a lot because he is one of the rare coaches that has had a lot of success at the club level and at the national team level. And I don't think that's a given for any good coach. I think you can have fantastic coaches, but they might not be as successful at the club level as they are with the national team. They take a Hassan Shahata, for example. He had his success at the club level, but with at the national team level, you could tell his strength was to get together with his players once a month for 7 to 10 days, motivate them, put in place a tactical system, drill it in their heads, use manage them, get them to like that place where they're at an emotional high, and then see you in a month, or see you in 3 months, or see you in 6 months sometimes, right? Whereas if you're a club manager, you're there every single day, and that's a whole completely different set of skills that's needed for that. And I love the fact that Florian Bengue knows how to do both. So I really respect him, and I have a lot of confidence in him. And El Hilal, like by the way, young Africans, a lot of experienced players. They have a huge squad. If transfer market is to be believed, I think I didn't count, but it looks like it was almost 40 players, maybe 30 plus players. They are playing regular football in Mauritania, so it's not like they're not playing regular football. And one thing that we're going to talk about in tomorrow's episode is extra motivation. When your country's going through something, that the extra motivation to want to make people proud. Because what Abdul told me, Abdul Musa, by the way, who we speak to tomorrow about Sudanese football, he told me that one of the rare sources of joy for a lot of Sudanese people is football at the moment, and mostly at the national team level because they're doing so well, but also at the club level. So Al Hilal, be careful about that motivation. Experienced squad, great coach. Young Africans, again, experienced, high-powered squad, great home support, good coach as well, who's in his second year, has had time to prepare. Mazembe stability as well, and MC of Alger is the final team in this Group A. Sleeping Giants, a club that is owned by the company in Africa, the richest company in Africa with the most revenue. Their own stadium of 40-50K, one of the better stadiums in Africa actually, and it belongs solely to them. They bring in huge budget, bring in players like Andy Delors, who was playing for Nice, one of the best strikers in French football a few years ago, and now he's playing in the CAF Champions League. Great kids, great training center. Patrice Baumel is the coach. He used to be the coach of Cote d'Ivoire, of course. Um, hey, I really like MC of Algiers. That's why I think this Group A is so even. I think really I wouldn't be surprised to see any of these teams go through. If I had to pick one, my mind is telling me it's going to be Young Africans and Al Hilal because of the prestige, because of the mix of all of these um, factors, this experience, and so on and so forth. Al Hilal, for example, they had very tough draws in recent years, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Mazembe or MC of Algiers go through. Group B, we have Mamelodi Sundowns, Raja Casablanca, AS FAR Rabat, and Maniama Union. From what I'm hearing, I haven't watched Sundowns in this new season under Coach Mkoba, but from what I'm hearing, Sundowns look more direct. They actually have strikers, Ikram Rainers, they have Artur Salas. They look way more direct. They're creating a lot of chances. They're scoring goals. Perhaps this style of play is better suited for the CAF Champions League. So props to Sundowns. Let's see how it works without Rolani Mokoena. I said in a previous episode that this is the biggest question around the African continent: is what are Sundowns post Mokoena? We'll see. I personally, from what I'm hearing from Sundowns fans, yes, losing Mokoena was a little bit unfortunate, but they're still 100% confident in their club, and they still think that they can do very, very well. Raja they're playing incredible football. From what I've watched, against Samartex, against when they're playing against Ghana, their passing moves, the way they construct play, their sequences is very, very great. They don't have perhaps the biggest names on the continent in terms of like highest profile of players, but they do have very talented players as well, especially the Algerian winger Youssouri Bouzouk. But not just him, the fullbacks are great, and the entire attacking midfield line is good. They have the Equatorial Guinea defensive midfielder Bikoro, who I like as well. So no, Raja are for sure going to be good. But here's one thing that's going to come up again in the CAF Confederation Cup. They're in a group with AS FAR Rabat. When you have two teams from the same country playing in the same group, it's kind of like a derby, right? Even though it's not a derby in Morocco, but now within the context of a continental competition, for me, it becomes like a derby. In derbies, because of the emotion, they opponents can sometimes nullify themselves. There tend to be tighter matches. They tend to be nil-nils and 1-1s. And in group stage play, draws are the devil. Don't feel comfortable drawing. Losses are not that much worse than a draw. So, yeah, you really need wins. And so sometimes they can nullify themselves, the two teams from the same country. And that would be an advantage for the fourth team in this group, Maniema Union of DRC. I just don't know enough about them. from what the CAF employee Samson Adamu was saying, apparently they're high flying football. They score a lot of goals, very attacking. I don't feel comfortable saying that they're going to take advantage and capitalize on this Moroccan rivalry in the same group, and that they're going to leapfrog one of the Moroccan teams. So for me, I'm going to go Sundowns and Raja are going to be the two teams that get out of Group B. Group C, we have El Ahly champions, most dominant club in Africa over the last 5 years, without a shadow of a doubt. CR Belouizdad, who have won, I think, three out of the last four Algerian League championships, qualified to the quarterfinals practically every single year in the CAF Champions League and then crash out. Orlando Pirates, who are top of the league in the PSL alongside Mamelodi Sundowns, and who I think people are kind of angry that I'm not hyping up enough. But me, like, this is going to be my promise to Pirates fans, if there are any on this channel. I will pay attention to your team in this CAF Champions League campaign. I will um, definitely pay attention. But what I would say about this group is that Al Ahly we can definitely see through. You'd have to be crazy to bet against them to get out of the group stages. But what about CRB versus Pirates? Stade d'Abidjan again. I don't really know about like Maniama Union, but I do think the two favorites to get out alongside Al Ahly are Belouizdad versus Pirates. What I would tell people that don't know Algerian football is that Sierra Belouizdad, despite them winning so much in Algeria recently, that's because they had the biggest budget. They don't have the biggest budget anymore. MCF Algiers have the biggest budget. And Sierra Belouizdad, unlike other North African clubs, like let's say Raja Casablanca, unlike an Esperance de Tunis maybe, or even an MCF Algiers, they don't have that home field advantage, or even the USM of Algiers, CS Constantine. They all have a more intimidating atmosphere than Sierra Belouizdad does. That's not to say they don't have fans, but it's very difficult to fill for them to fill up a stadium of more than 40K, for example. And their fans are not maybe as die hard as some of those other ones. But don't get me wrong, they still have a very respectable, very good fan base. But I do wonder about, like sometimes South African clubs come up to North Africa, and I think that atmosphere can get to them. That's not really going to happen here, in my opinion. And I do like Pirates. Like I said, they started very well in the PSL. I believe in Jose Rivero. Evanes Mahopa for me is not like a world-class striker, but the player I'm most looking forward to watching is this Mofokeng player. Everybody's been talking about him like he is the bee's knees, like the hottest talent in African football, and I just don't know. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching him play. I think he scored a goal in Cup final last year. I've been keeping an eye on him, like sort of monitoring his progress, but I haven't really watched him play even one full match so far. So Pirates or Belouizdad, if I had to pick one, the confidence that Pirates fans have makes me want to pick Pirates alongside Al Ahly, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Belouizdad qualify as well. Finally, Group D is going to be Esperance de Tunis, Pyramids FC, Sagrada Esperanza, and Joliba. So for me, Group D, Esperance de Tunis and Pyramids are the favorites. The quality on paper of Pyramids is on another level. Fiston Mayele, Ibrahim Adil, um, who else? I'm drawing blanks. I want to say Ramadan Subhi, but it doesn't impress me that much anyways. Lachine, Mahmoud Fatih. They have a lot of very talented players. Obama, so many great players that have a lot of experience in these tournaments and in the Egyptian Premier League as well. So Pyramids, you have to count them in. They finished second last year, not too far behind Al Ahly. And Esperance Tunis, like I said, Miguel Cardozo's second year, right? Like Gamondi, he has a full year, a full off season to prepare. Um, Brought in very interesting wingers and attacking midfielders. Abdurrahman Konate, Elias Mokwana, and especially Yusuf Belali. I loved what they did in the transfer window. They still have the two Brazilians, Rodrigo Rodriguez and Yansas. It just the only thing that I'm kind of feeling a little bit hesitant about is that they haven't been good in the Tunisian league so far. They've dropped points twice. I think they played two matches and they've drawn twice. And they've had to rely on young players like Zindine Qada to score goals. Players that I think nobody else on the continent really has heard of if you don't follow the Tunisian league. So that makes me hesitate to say that they're going to go that far. But I mean, if before the Tunisian league started, Esperance were alongside maybe Al Ahly, the my two favorites going into this CAF Champions League. Okay, let's move on quickly to the CAF Confederation Cup. Group A is Simba, Sfax, Constantine, and Bravos the Maquis. Group B is Berkane, Stade Malien, Stellenbosch, and Sidi Lundasul. Group C is USM of Algiers, Azak Mimosa, As Jarraf, and Orapa United. And Group D is Zamalek, Al Masri, and Yimba, and Black Bulls. So Group A, from what I'm understanding about Simba, they're a lot younger. This is not the team that dominated Tanzanian football a few years ago. Yanga has sort of overtaken them. That's not to say they don't have talent. That's not to say they're not a big squad. What worries me about young teams is that they're coming up against Sfax and Constantine, who are, for me, in my opinion, the exact opposite. Constantine, for example, is chock full of good local Algerian players that you've never heard of, but that have been playing top flight Algerian football for 7, 8 years. Maybe have some caps at the Chan level, but not the senior national team. Um, like Mohammed bin Shaira, Brahim Deep. You guys don't know these players, but they're very, very good. Uh, and they're wily and they have experience. You know, they're 30 years old. You know, these are grown men trying to feed their children. And Sfax is similar. And so because they have that experience, because their wiliness, because of the home field advantage, I actually, this is going to be a little bit of a bold prediction, but I think Sfax and Constantine are going to go through, and I think Simba are going to crash out, and Tanzanian fans are not going to be happy with that. Group B, Berkane, everybody knows the connection they have with this, with their continent, with this continent. We always compare Al Ahly to Real Madrid, and rightly so. Could we compare Berkane to Sevilla? You know how Sevilla has this love story with the Europa League? Berkane has the same thing with the Confederation Cup, right? Um, I thought they had a pretty decent transfer window, brought in a lot of experience, especially along the back line. Goalkeeper, I think Munir Al Qajwi's joined. He's the number two in the Moroccan national team. Yusufu Dayu, the Burkinabe center half, has been there for such a long time. They have a pretty interesting Brazilian winger, Mateo Santos. I like Berkane, and like I said, this tournament is in their DNA. Uh, my runner-up is going to be Stellis. I think from what I'm understanding, they have like a 5-year plan. They were just promoted not that long ago. And from what I'm understanding, they have a completely competent coaching staff, board, and they've been having great results in the PSL. Uh, it's a shame that they lost to Ikram Rainers to Sundowns, but I'm really looking forward to watching Jaden Adams in midfield. Linked to Sundowns, apparently, linked to some Premier League clubs, apparently. I don't know if that's true or not. But very much looking forward to Stellies, watching them in the Confederation Cup. I think them and Berkane will go through. Group C, USM of Algiers and ASEC Mimosas are my two teams to go through. What you have to understand about USM of Algiers, they won this competition 2 years ago. Last year, they make it to the semifinals. And if you remember, there was like a political situation where they were playing against Berkane, and Berkane showed up with a Moroccan map on their shirt. And the Moroccan map was one that was not recognized by Algeria, or even you could say the international community, really, or let's say the UN. It had Morocco with the Western Sahara all colored through, and the Algerian authorities seized RS Berkane's jerseys in the airport, and Berkane sort of said, "We refuse to play if you don't give us our equipment." And then Algerians, the authorities, they tried to say, "No, okay, look, we can give you replacement jerseys. Here's your replacement jerseys, or you can tape this up," and they refused. And CAF awarded Berkane forfeits in both fixtures, although this entire thing is still with the Court of Arbitration of Sport, as USM of Algiers appealed that decision. What I would say is that USM of Algiers, and I have very close friends that love USMA, they don't feel like they lost on the pitch. They still feel like they're champions in spirit. You understand what I'm saying? Like they don't feel like they were beaten on the pitch. And so they feel like they have there's a revenge, there's vengeance in the air. They have to get back, this trophy. They feel like they have a connection with this trophy and that they were cheated out of it last year. That's how they feel. And they had a great transfer window. I love the fact that they brought in two TP Mazembe players, Kevin Mondeko, who was captain, Glody Lakonza, who scores a lot of goals from midfield. I like Wale Musa Ali, the Nigerian winger that's uh, their fans are so excited about. And they have Nabil Ma'loul, the Tunisian coach that won the CAF Champions League with Esperance. So he's proven that he can win these kinds of competitions. I love USMA. I think they're going to be one of the favorites, one of my top three favorites in this tournament. ASEC, I'm a little more hesitant about because they lost 12 players over the transfer window. Um, Now, the thing about ASEC is that this is part and parcel of the club's DNA. They lose players all the time. But they lost Karamoko, who was their leading scorer in the Champions League last season. They lost Anthony Trabi and Wanlo Koulibaly, their two center halves that were, in my opinion, like really, really great last year. Serge Poku went to Al Hilal in Sudan, and Malik Yalkouye transferred to Brighton for 5 million euros and is currently playing in Austria. 18 years old, very, very talented young Malian midfielder. So ASEC, they lose players all the time and they just replace them. But what they did really well in the Champions League last year was they defended well. Again, Champions League last year taught us that you have to defend well to go far in these competitions. They kept the same coach, Julien Chevalier, who's been there for years, maybe like 7, 8 years now. But can they continue to defend well? That's my biggest question. If they can, I have no faith. I have absolutely no problem saying that they're going to get through. If they can't defend as well, due to maybe some instability in the locker room, then perhaps we can see either Giraffe, especially Giraffe, I think, or Arapa United, but especially Giraffe, perhaps go through in their stead. Finally, as we're going to wrap up this video, Zamalek Al-Masri and Yimba and Black Bulls. Look, Zamalek and Al-Masri, as I talked about in the Champions League group stage between Raja Casablanca and Asfar Rabat, Zamalek and Al-Masri, I think Zamalek were not happy to see that they were drawn with Al-Masri and I was gonna say vice versa, but it's probably Zamalek in particular that's not happy with that, because again, Al Masri they're gonna try their hardest, and it's gonna be Zamalek. Part I think it's gonna be a tougher match than if they were drawn with another opponent from Pot B. Do these derbies nullify, the two teams? Do they start drawing matches, and that's such a big trap? And if that's the case, can Nyimba come and sneak in? I'm gonna say yes in this case. I'm gonna say Zamalek and Yimba and Al Masri. Just the fact that they're playing against Zamalek, I think is gonna be a bit tricky. I love there's a midfielder that plays for Yimba, Daniel Daga, just 17 years old. He's gonna be included in my list of top young talents born in 2007 this year that we release with The Guardian every year, and Daniel Daga is one of those names. He's been so impressive, starting games for Inyemba again at that young age. I'm very much looking forward to watching him in his all-action play in midfield. Anyways, this was just a quick reaction video, sort of breaking down group stages, giving my quick predictions, and tomorrow we're back for another African football report on the African Five-A-Side podcast. My name is Maher Mazahi. It's been great speaking to you. Let me know who you think is going to get out of your groups. Is there anything that I missed? Have I been unfair to teams like, Orapa, Black Bulls, Lunda Sul, Bravo Stamaki, Maniema, Joliba, Stade d'Abidjan? If you know anything about these teams, I really don't. And usually I learn about these teams as I watch these competitions. If you think I've been unfair, if I've missed something about these teams, please tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear it. But if not, just like, subscribe, share this video with your friends, and we'll speak to you soon, tomorrow. Take care. Peace.